welcome to our 157th episode of Gorilla Radio. Glenn Baldwin's already here. First to comment. I don't even have to check the comments. They're working.
First comment of the year.
He's the first one in, and he's quicker than all the kids. So welcome back, Mr. Reiser. Softball season's over for a little
kind
bit.
Of. It doesn't ever really end. So what's going on, fellas? So we kind of go year round. So
yeah,
a little bit of a break, like 2 weeks, and then they're back at it. Now they're kind of lifting and stuff. So lifting started last week, so they're super excited for that.
Oh, I'm sure. Everyone loves lifting. They'd rather be playing, wouldn't they?
OC had like a strained muscle in her trap, so she had to go to PT, and they had her lifted a little bit. And then she was like, "Man, I'm pretty shredded." So she sent us a picture of her six pack. So we're like, "Oh man!" So I think that's the encouragement she needs, right?
Yeah. Yes, definitely. So wrestling season officially could start today. I do not believe anyone wrestled today. I think Madison has moved the battle for the paddle to a later date. They're not gonna wrestle 16 matches in the first week. So
They should though.
Yes, that's always a good idea to use a quarter of your weigh-in points the first week of the season. So you get about 20 matches in, so that you can start leading the state in pins and forfeits and all that. So, got a lot to go over, I guess. Really, this is about the only structured one we'll have because there's some things we want to talk about, and rankings are out. Get the magazine; it's very good.
Yeah, it came out really good.
Yeah. I think, a lot of the rankings came out pretty good. I think it's always, when you get them out, all of a sudden people are your best friends and they're giving you all the information. Oh, this kid's actually going this weight and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think as it's gone on, like with the preseason stuff, it's really helped, like the IPO, which was great again. Another great year of Indiana preseason open, but you can kind of get an idea where those guys are at, especially with the you can see the weights and then Super 32 and in different preseason stuff, so you can kind of get an idea where everyone falls at in those spots, Yeah. So that helps, okay. But it's a lot more difficult on some teams that have a little bit less flexibility, and some of the upper weights are a little bit difficult too with some of the weight changes.
Yeah, that's one thing I always had on the list: the weight changes. That obviously made rankings a little bit more difficult with trying to project some. Probably the top 10, you probably have a fairly good idea. There's some that are probably switching weights, but at the same time, once you start going to the, or any of those 145s, you're going to be able to make 144. Most will probably go up to to 50, but then what are the 52s? I know there's some that might go 50, so some interesting weights. I don't know. Someone was complaining about them on the board, and I don't know. I don't know what the right set of weights are. Whatever it is, it's probably going to be dependent upon what you see in your wrestling room every day, or whatever your team has.
Yeah, luckily, the IPO stuff kind of falls in similar to those weights, but that 150, 157. That 75 to 90 is a little weird when you lose an 82 in there. Mm-hmm. You kind of had an idea. So that's kind of a weird flex. And then 190 to 215. So not a lot, but yeah, a lot of freshmen too. Chris is right. Guess not only weights, but sometimes you miss groups or ages, so grades. Yes. Some guys are being held back, some guys are not, and not like that it's a bad thing, but that part of it's a little bit of a harder guess and check, and it's tough to say, hey, is your kid still going to be in 8th grade, or is your kid going to be a freshman? And Peyton Hornsby, I thought he was a middle schooler, and I don't think it was updated in the magazine, but he's really good. He had a good IPO, and I know he's in the new rankings when they come out, when they get posted.
Yeah, I originally had him in the middle school rankings. I think I did move him up to freshman. I'd have to double check my printed version. Actually, I put a stop when I ordered about 5 extra, and sold out all those. So the magazines, the hard copies are all sold out, which we had a lot of people buy them, so that's good to see. But Yeah, one of the weight classes are very interesting because one of the things I've noticed over the past few years is you look at Brownsburg and Crown Point and Center Grove. They've really built their teams around being having some really good upper weights, and they've
Yeah.
really Crown or Center Grove especially has gotten just they bulk some guys up that were like 132 pounders, and all of a sudden they're 170, 182. And now
Oh
that the
yeah.
weights
I mean,
changed, now they're like, oh crap, what do we do here?
well, you have, two, especially Center Grove, and those guys are really good. Figure it out, I'm sure. But you have a Nate Johnson who wrestled 215 last year when he was a qualifier at heavyweight the year before. You got Shot, who was a state qualifier last year. You got McConnell, who was a runner-up and then Klauser had jumped a bunch of weight from, I think at one point he was at 32 and then got up to 70, and he's a full 170.
Yeah,
I think he's like 190. I think we have it ranked at 190, but like it's not like he's a small kid.
yeah,
You know.
yeah. So I know Brownsburg always has some good upper weights, and that's one thing I think that Crown Point really kind of struggled with early on during when Jesse was a freshman and sophomore. They were really loaded from 45 on below, and then after that it tailed off pretty quickly. And I remember us beating them, and it was a tale of two duels. I knew between those first 7 weight classes were going to be tough, but I was like, we're fairly well solid in the top half, and we ended up beating them because we had that top half that scored those points. So it's interesting to see how those 3 teams especially, and a lot of the teams really put a lot of effort
Well,
into their upper weights, and now basically you get an upper weight taken away. It's like, you got to be kidding me.
it helps for Crown Point when you have a guy like Joe Clark who has twin sons that are heavyweight
Yes.
and 215, and then following up with another set of twins, triplets, but one's a female, and that are going to be coming in that are also big kids. So that helps.
Yes. Yes.
Oh yeah, like Griffith back in the day, like down low you had Angel, Kike, Sertzis, Justin Lin in there, Andre, but then they had a guy like David Martin up at like 71, but like 3 through 35, 4 pretty stacked.
Yeah.
And then it's just weather the storm the rest of the way.
So yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see how the new weight classes shake out. I always, no one's going to like them. They're not perfect. It's based on what you see in your wrestling room, and you see what's coming up, and it's a lot of people didn't like the old ones because it's harder.
There's
to
Joe
find
right there, man. Tell you, my guy.
former years of Clark's. It's
For
like
real,
Groundhog
man.
Day.
Those guys are probably excited with football too. Those guys are good football players. Congratulations, they're going to Buffalo. They got the Will and Paul, and then I'm sure the football team's not sad. They got another set coming through.
Yeah, yep. They're in semi-state this weekend, aren't they? I believe they.
Yeah, I think good game with Penn. Penn was good.
Yeah,
That was a good game for those guys, and this will be a tough one. I know our girls switched their lifting night from. We live in Lowell, but we have a lot of Crown Point families, and they're like, hey, can we not lift on Friday? So we're gonna lift on Thursday, so they can all go to the semi-state game.
nice. So.
But talking to the wrestling guys, this is like one of the problems that Cathedral and those guys would run into all those years. Like when their football team's really good, you have all your guys that are still playing. I think they have a good amount of their starters are on play football also.
Yeah, that's what I would say.
It's
always a lot of fun to deal with. You want your teams to have success. Then when they start running into wrestling, and then guys are beat up, sore mentally, physically, it's always like, as a coach, you want them to do well, but you also like, man, you either want them going to state or losing the first round sectional.
they have a good squad, man.
Yeah.
Crown Point's pretty good, and we did our speed and conditioning with one of their coaches last year over the winter, and he was just kept saying like, oh, they're gonna be really good. So they're gonna be we're gonna be really tough to beat. And I was like, okay, man, well, you got Penn, you gotta get through Penn, you gotta get through all the indie schools. He's like, nah. He's like, this is probably one of the best teams I've ever been around. And he played at Purdue. He played I think he was like at a couple training camps with the league, so I think he knows talent.
Yeah. So that should be interesting to see. Obviously, Adam Central, they're always playing. I think they're favorites to make it down to state again. And they have a ton of guys, so I don't think they don't officially start their season until mid December. So their coach Curry has learned over the years, like, our first match isn't going to be till mid December. That's not even schedule anything. So yeah, I can't remember. I don't even know the other teams that are at semi-state offhand, but
Westfield, Center Grove, I believe, right?
yeah,
Ben Davis.
Center Grove's good. They're good too.
Yeah. I know Klauser's there, Shot, Johnson. So you have, I believe Weems plays too. So you have a lot of Center Grove guys that are ranked in there. And a lot of the Crown Point backups, I mean, that are guys that are projected to be backups in the starting lineup also, play football. I remember Cathedral always said that their first real meet was like the Trikoff because they'd have enough time to get their guys in shape after football season.
Yeah. Westfield, Crown Point, Center Grove, Ben Davis, Maryville, Snyder.
Maryville.
I'm sure there's some Snyder guys playing. Bloomington South, Decatur Central, Northwood, Leo. There'll be some guys there, and East Central, New Pal, Knox, Chittard. I'm sure Chittard has some guys. I know they have a pretty solid team coming back. Gibson Southern, Heritage Hills. Heritage Hills has a lot of good big guys.
Oh yeah, I mean, dude, they have a lot of really good. I mean, Jack Goldsberry and those guys. Like, kind of looking at some of like summer results, it was like trying to fill in their, like, probably 75 and up. They're going to be really good.
Yeah, exactly. And they're going to be kind of hurt by
that too.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Southmont, North Posey, Adams Central, Indianapolis Lutheran, Sheridan. I think Adams Central's about the only one that puts together a pretty good team. But yeah, so a lot of teams with solid wrestling backgrounds, so it should be interesting to see.
Nice.
See how that goes.
50% of their projected starting lineup is still going strong.
Yeah, it's good to have that kind of success, and I know those guys, they'll go roll right into another sport, and they're going to expect more, just as much success, and makes it a little bit easier at times. So, when they just come in and they're on that high, and they're like, we want to continue to have success. So. 80% I think Adams Central is about 95. So yeah. Unfortunately, Brett, I believe DJ actually graduated, unlike people from that era in Prairie Heights. So, speaking of Crown Point and the Big Three, we have three. I guess we could call it 3.5 teams ranked in the top 50. Since Mount Carmel is technically half Indiana team.
Yeah, they have a good amount of Indiana guys on the squad.
Yes. Yeah, so Crown Point is 13, Mount Carmel is 14, Brownsburg is 25, and Center Grove's 26. So basically 3.5 Indiana teams in the top 26, which is pretty impressive. That's probably never happened, and I think Mount Carmel is the highest ranked Illinois team, which is pretty cool to see, especially that they are littered with Indiana guys, so that's always good.
Yeah, I think, and what's really cool about that is those teams are going to probably hit each other. Crown Point and Brownsburg are going to probably wrestle at Team State, maybe Center Grove also. And then at Carnahan, I think Mount Carmel's at Carnahan now also.
I believe so.
And they're going to have in Crown Point and Mount Carmel hit each other at the duel too.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting one. I don't know. Cubs they need to schedule that off of Cubs convention weekend. I am making a state law that you cannot do that during Cubs convention this weekend.
Especially if they try to sign Otani, right?
Yeah, if they're signing Otani, I'm not going. I don't care. I mean, I know it's a lot closer this year, but I'm like, ooh, man. I was like, I might just send you a Nick there, and I'm just going to watch on my phone. I think you guys can do it, right?
I think so. We got it. Maybe.
Yeah, you guys will just be down the road from it. I mean, it's literally like 5 miles or something from where we are. I've already mapped it out. I'm like, man, I could make it, but that was a long duel. That was intense. And that's the bad thing is like, man, I want to go. I want to do both. I need to be in 2 places at once.
I think they're like cool at not that Crown Point didn't do a good job. They did a great job last year, but now going back to Mount Carmel, I feel like they've been one-upping it.
Yeah.
It's going to be great.
Yeah, it was a great duel last year. In that old gym that's so awesome. That was one of the coolest duels. And, I mean, everyone was on top of each other. Fans getting thrown out, and you couldn't
Oh yeah,
hear
that was great.
anything. And that was fun. So, and I guarantee it's
Tony said you
not going
should
to
have.
be any uh, quieter in there this time.
No, heck no. Now you're kind of building a little bit of that rivalry too. You have the first year, Crown Points won the last two. Last year it was close though. It was a good
Yeah,
duel. I think Mount Carmel looks really good. Just kind of like talking with Joe. Obviously Evan went out there and they're just loaded, man. They're a really good squad.
yeah, that should be pretty
Tony
interesting.
said you should have moved. My brother said he thought you were moving to the region.
Not yet. I have, yeah, not yet. Maybe soon. I don't know. But yeah, so yeah, that should be pretty interesting. Couple, I guess, number one ranked guys. I guess we probably need to at least hit on a couple of our number one guys that are new to the one's new to the state, one's uh,
Well, kind
back.
of returning to the state, right?
Yeah, Waylon Kressel at he's at Warren Central. Wrestled for Coach, or his brother wrestled for O'Neill at Wabash. I assume he did too. It's a small enough school. I'm sure he was there. So he won a state title in North Dakota last year as a freshman. I know he spent some time in the national rankings or like some big boards. And he's back in
Is he a
Indiana. He's
runner-up as an eighth grader too? Like in North Dakota, you're able to wrestle as an eighth grader also.
Yeah,
He's
I
a
think
runner-up.
seventh and eighth grade, but I didn't see any results for him there. He might have. I mean, I wouldn't be super surprised if he didn't place there. Um, I did not see any. I looked before I did too much, and I did not see anything on his, because I do things through track, and I didn't see anything for the previous years, so I don't know if it just wasn't recorded or what. So I guess if he might, I mean, someone else can probably comment if he wrestled as a seventh or eighth grader in the state tournament. But yeah, he won state last year at 170. Oh man, he wrestled 170. Oof. So I guess you have him at, do you have him at 57 or 65?
I had him at 57. I moved him up, so like
Okay.
on the next update he'll be up.
Okay. Yeah. And then Benjamin Smith from Maryland. Maryland has a public and private school class, so it makes it even weirder. I think they went to. I don't know if they didn't go to preps though, did he? 'Cause they were supposed
I
to
don't
go.
think he wrestled like prep nationals, but I
Yeah.
think they did like the in-state preps, right?
Yeah.
And he won that.
Yeah, and he was an All-American Greco last year at Fargo, so I think he placed third in juniors. So pretty
Hey,
good.
he's pretty talented.
Yeah. So Mr. Oberlin said he got second as an eighth grader. Well, it's not his track profile, so we need to get that fixed. Send an email to Flo, and they'll get that fixed, or I'm sure right away. So yeah, so those two guys, Smith was at 6. Do you have him at 75 or 65?
I think he's going to be 75. I mean, I think him and Reinhardt are going to be kind of wrestling off in those spots, like depending on which one goes 65, which one goes 75.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, kind of one of those things. Warren Central. I think Warren Central is going to be really good.
Yeah, yes, they're kind of sneaky good. If you look at their,
We kind of talked about that when the magazine was coming out, like doing the rankings. I'm like, they have a lot of guys that could make semifinals, which is I think where you score a lot of points. And they added a guy like Kressel in there. Really, really helps. A guy that's a champ. I mean, they had a couple, guys that were medalists last year that had good runs. And then, obviously with Smith going to Crown Point, it's just one of those things. Like when you have a good program, and, good coaches, people want to go to those programs. And I think, that's. I don't think necessarily it was like, hey, I'm going to move from Maryland to Crown Point and make that commute every day.
yeah,
My state to state isn't always great. We had a email from a college in Maine that wanted OC to come out. I'm like, yeah, like what's that drive? It's like, pretty far.
Yeah,
It's up
yes.
like Bangor, Maine. I was like, nah, I don't think that's gonna happen for us.
Yeah, that's I think he trains with John Morrison, right?
Yeah.
Morrison was out in Maryland in that area, wasn't he? I believe.
Yeah, I believe so.
And then so he kind of just followed it just as a, people kind of understand where he came from. Morrison is a Munster kid, technically, and he
Almost wrestled at Munster.
yeah
Like really good Illinois kid.
yeah wrestled at Oklahoma State, and so he's the one you see with Howe. He's with Howe all the time, and
yeah, I think he trains with Stefan a lot.
yeah, a pretty good coach. Wrestled at Oklahoma State and coached there for a little bit, so he's pretty good coach. And unfortunately, he's over in the region. Him and Howe have teamed up to form a pretty nice little pair and stuff. So that's kind of where Smith came from. He'd been training with him previously, and obviously, who doesn't want to move to the region?
Yeah. Do you see my guy was missing King Garros? They don't have him in Texas. But I think like it's one of those things like, that's incredible that like John Morrison and Andrew Howe opened a school, and I think they've been going for about a little over a year now. But you have a guy that was coaching at the NCAA's starting a school, and a guy, I believe John was running like the RTC, and then you also have Bobby Joe Maldonado in there, who's really good.
Yeah.
And he said the worst Carrots ever. Oh man. And then I think Eric's been in there a little bit too, Eric McGill. So you have some pretty good guys, some pretty good coaches helping out in the region, is kind of getting better. But you're going to have guys that are going to come in like that.
Yeah, and that's going to be was Morrison an overtime guy? I assume he was.
Yeah, he was He was an overtime guy.
Yeah. That's a that overtime, and I know you've brought that up. I don't know if we've talked about it on here, but overtime had just a run, and they have a system that is impeccable.
Well,
just how to get kids to win state titles and do well.
It was so like when the region was really good, a lot of those guys were going into like Naperville at overtime with Sean Bormat owned it, who's the coach at Michigan.
Yeah. So
like you were training with a guy that's pretty good.
Yeah.
And you have McGill, Cosgrove, Galka, Howe, the Petrovs, I believe, went there too. I'm sure I'm missing people. There, and that was just the Indiana guys that were going over. John Morrison, a ton of like really, really good guys. So I'm sure if they ever put their list out of guys that were training out of there in that window, it was like, it was kind of like what like in Illinois, what Izzy style was at the later, where all those guys were going to Montini and doing really well, like the Real Woods group. But it was like that group in there, and it was a lot of Indiana guys were getting really good there.
Yeah, it was just a brute. I mean, there's some good guys out there, and they also had like Olympic level guys coming in there and training for periods of time. So yeah, that's
oh yeah, Matt Gentry trained there with those guys. That was like one of the things he said, like kind of got his like roots in the area, was going there and training with Sean Barr. So a guy that wrestled Jordan Burroughs at the Olympics. But he had a really cool system. If you watch, how Eric McGill wrestled, how Kyle Erzman wrestled, how Eric Galka wrestled, it was a very like strong style of defense, and like they were winning state titles. There was a ton of titles getting there.
Yeah,
I remember like towards the end, getting so many kids, they were like doing applications like, hey, like we're gonna take these kids in, and we can't, Yeah,
he had quite a system going, which is crazy, and then left to be a college coach. So
yeah, was that system for like 2 years at Michigan, and then ended up being the head coach.
Yeah, and he's doing pretty good there. So they're doing pretty well to say the least.
What's some Indiana guys also, right?
Yeah, you have Paris, and now Davison's there. So, and then Joe Walker's Czar.
Yep.
So is Quaja from Floyd Central. He's there. So he's been pilfering Indiana guys. So TWC. Meyer Shapiro's. Oh, okay. Yeah,
Meyer Shapiro's pretty good too.
Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard rumors. I don't know. I've watched a little college wrestling recently. I don't know how I'm going to do this. Watching college wrestling and then seeing the 3-point takedowns, and now like, oh, that's two takedown. So I got a little head start
Yeah.
on that. So that's gonna be interesting to see how that how people translate from college to high school. So um, some other things to touch on. Stefan Micic won a world title this offseason. That's
Man,
pretty nice.
you and it was like a legitimate like meat grinder. He
Yes.
had to like he had to like go out there and beat some really really good guys to win that world title.
Yeah. Yeah, that was you saw his jaw and you're like, okay, he beat the one guy. Like, is he gonna be able to do this again? Okay, he does it again. Like, okay, you run like 3 just brutal matches right in a row, and that's pretty cool. And in Serbia, first Serbian
Yeah.
freestyle world champion. Um, Definitely really cool to have him, from Indiana, wrestling for Serbia. And there have been some good interviews with him. There's one that just released. I did not get to see it yet, but I know the one on Flow was pretty good with him and Bader, and he really, he's usually pretty candid about things. I mean, he's not shy about saying, talking about things and like, hey, you know what? It's easier to make the team. I still got to win matches though. It's harder to get to the Olympics going through Euros than it is Pan Am's, and
Yeah.
and he talked a little bit about the weight cut, and he was absolutely enormous, but he just can't find the right weight class, unfortunately. And if he wants to go to the Olympics, I mean, 65. He's not 65. He just can't put on the weight to be a full 65. So he's got to go 57, and unfortunately, that's what he has to do.
Yeah, I mean, me and my brother were just talking about this too. Like, when he was like a freshman, he was like really, really little.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember they were like, "This dude's gonna be like a world champ someday," and I was like, "Okay." And then you like watch, and then like, as he progressed, and then like that his senior year, him and Nick Lee in the semis, which I still feel like he should have been under that. They should have like found a way to get that under the lights, right? And man, that was like such a good match. But like you had a guy that was NCAA champ wrestling, and Nick was at the Worlds also. As you're watching that video when they're throwing the football around, you're like, well, there's an Indiana guy, and there's an Indiana guy, and Stefan's going to be there, and which was really cool.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, he ran the gauntlet, and obviously he's going to be in the mix next year. So, and he's already qualified the weight, so he doesn't have to do too much, which is good for him. He gets to make it one more time, and I would assume he's fairly young enough that he can, and obviously he doesn't have to go through the grind of 3 or 4 big tournaments like you would in the U.S. to qualify. So he
Yeah.
could definitely go another cycle. Probably he's right on that edge. When did he graduate? He graduated.
I think at one point we were talking like him and Nick. I think Nick Lee wrestled the last year, but he wrestled Nick when he was a senior and Nick was a freshman.
Yes.
And because I think he had like an injury year, and he had like, I think he had maybe two Olympic years.
2 Olympic years, yes. Yeah. And a COVID year.
So, yeah.
So it should be interesting.
So,
Sarah Hildebrandt and Mason Paris, both bronze. Paris got a late call up to the big leagues, I guess, and Gable Stevenson was not going to wrestle, and thankfully he'd been training and probably had some intel that he probably should start preparing mentally and everything, and so he ended up getting a bronze. Should have probably been in the finals. Just was so close to making the finals.
And he did. That was such a good match too. And again, like wrestling monsters, man.
Dude,
it just tells you like what
that dude was absolutely huge. He like dwarfed Mason, and oh yeah, that was crazy. But yeah, he did pretty impressive with him. Hildebrandt just doing what she does, grab world medals.
Yeah. So yeah, someone asked me the other day. They're like, "Oh, who's the best girl that ever come out of Indiana?" I said, Sarah, man, she's got an Olympic medal. It's not like maybe like down the road someone would be better, but like, what do you think that she would have done? She's the 3rd best person in the world in her weight class, yeah. Like at the Olympics. Like, yeah, like there's not. I don't think you can argue that anymore.
Yeah, no, that's a pretty easy answer right there. And if you want to even put the best wrestler ever from Indiana, it's hard to I mean, you can put a pretty strong argument for someone like her who has 3, 4 ish, maybe more
Man,
state or
there,
like world medals.
I think when Sarah was a senior, her and Stefan were in the same weight at the Harvest Classic. They didn't wrestle. Um, they're looking for a team to get in the Tri-Cop December 9th. That's a good tournament to get into.
Yeah, 5 great
That team,
matches.
yeah. Um, and it's a good day of wrestling. A lot of prestige there. She got a pretty good coach. Um, yeah, I mean, obviously, I love the Tri-Coff. I just told you I'm gonna probably be in Peoria at my daughter's softball tournament, but there might be a chance I'll sneak in there. Maybe we can get a little meet and greet. I went to Highland this past weekend.
Nice.
Saw a lot of wrestling people. I got to go watch the girls' wrestling tournament.
Yep, I'm going to be on the call on WZBD with Dane on Thursday for the Columbia City. I don't know who they're all wrestling, but I should probably find that out so I can have a little bit of a research ahead of time. But yeah, so yeah, that's if you're looking to get in the Trikoff, talk to Coach Watkins. That's 5 great matches. It's a meat grinder of a day. You get to see the beautiful region, the heart of the region right there.
If you want to get in, I'll give you a list of places to go hang out at.
And places not to hang out at.
Places not to go to. But no, that's a great day of wrestling. Hopefully, I always feel like I want to see like teams from outside of the region go there because I think it's like one of those things. Some parity. I like to see like some teams from down south go there.
Yeah,
definitely. And I don't know who's in this year, but it's always like cool to see. Like I know like Floyd Central used to come up, and Mishawaka was there. So I don't know who's there this year. My schedule game's not as strong this year.
Yeah, I'm working on the schedules now, so that's a never-ending project that changes a lot. So, let's see what else. State realignment. Ooh, speaking of hot topics, I got to bring that up. Of what biggest one? Rochester got moved back to the region.
I know, man. They were you guys a semi-state champ. You guys booted them after winning a semi-state.
Yeah, winning 2 of them, you get booted. You get voted off the island in Fort Wayne. Caston and Rochester moved from Fort Wayne. Caston was. What did they move over there about the same time? I don't even really remember seeing them very much at a semi-state, but Caston and Rochester moved back to Fort Wayne. Wawasee used to be in Fort Wayne back before the super sectional. What was that, 2003?
Yeah.
So it's been about 20 years.
Josh Rowe and those guys.
Yep. Yeah. I don't know about Tippy Valley. I'm sure they've been in Fort Wayne. They're right on that spot. So they are back in Fort Wayne. Those are the biggest changes. Wawasee will be going to Elkhart sectional to make that 8 teams. That's going to be a pretty solid sectional and regional there. Wawasee, Coach Baumgartner has resigned, and I think Jamie Salazar is taking over there, so that should be a pretty easy transition. I know Salazar's been there for a while, but they have 3 state qualifiers coming back, so that's going to be they're going to come in hot and ready to make an impact back in Fort Wayne. They used to go through the Carroll section or Carroll Regional, actually, back in the good old days.
I wonder, because that area is so tight right there. I wonder how that's going to, like, how that would have all played out. Like, if there was any discussion of taking anybody else. Like, obviously we're not in those conversations, but like I know, like Penn, Mishawaka, Elkhart, that whole area is pretty tight over there.
Yeah, that's a. I mean, yeah, they could have. I can't. When the discussion started coming up, I actually even put together a spreadsheet of like mileage to the nearest sectional and regional and stuff, and that area is just a mess because you got to try to. There's not quite enough teams that are close enough, and somebody's got half of them going to have to go to Fort Wayne, half to go to East Chicago, pretty much, because it's just the way the state. It's very. I do not, and I don't.
Maybe Rochester jump in the track.
Yeah. So,
yeah. I mean, I don't know if they got its region scheduled on their schedule right now, but maybe go jump in, go get a little taste out there, scout out some areas by East Chicago.
Oh yeah. So yeah, it's that whole. And I know, were you in on that or was it just Dane on the?
Dane was in there. I know we had talked about it a little bit, but like, I know you and I had talked about it, but I didn't said nothing.
Yeah. So they I guess it'd been tabled for about 2 years, and all of a sudden it came out, and it sounds like basically the process, so people kind of understand, is there a bunch of coaches got together, they kind of hash out some, and they were just looking more at numbers of who's fielding full teams and who's not, and try to make as many physical wrestlers at each sectional and regional, and they kind of had their suggestions, and then the IHSA goes and they look at them and they take them, they modify them a little bit. I think they got modified a little bit from what I've gathered, but it's been 2 years, and I think people kind of forgot about it, and they didn't really meet again, and all of a sudden that changed. So the other big ones, the Perry Meridian Southport Perry Meridian sectional regionals got Lawrence Central, Lawrence North, North Central, and Mount Vernon. All are going there, and Cardinal Ritter, Crispus Attucks, Providence Cristo Rey, and George Washington's going to Pendleton Heights. So that's a pretty big. That's going to make that Perry regional pretty darn tough.
A lot. Yeah. So we're just consolidating.
Yeah.
Like, well, I seen Lake Central got moved to East Chicago sectional, so
Yeah.
they're not in the Crown Point sectional anymore.
Yeah. So that's going to be that Prairie Regional is going to be loaded. And I think they kind of did that a little bit before Mount Vernon started getting, Mount Vernon and Lawrence North are heading in pretty good directions right now, and North Central's always pretty good. I do not know who's going. I think Coach Silverman, who coached for about 40 years. I might be underestimating that. I think he resigned or retired, so not sure who took over there. But yeah, so that's going to be interesting. Pendleton Heights is going to get a little bit weaker, so they have they'll have like Cathedral and those teams there. Out of East Chicago, like you said, North Judson, they went from Crown Point to Penn. Winnemac is now at the Penn Regional from Logansport. Lake Central got moved to the East Chicago Hobart Regional, and then North and South Newton gets to go to Crown Point. So
yeah, I'm sure they'll enjoy that.
They're probably easily thrilled about that. Down south, Franklin got moved out of Mooresville, so
which
was very
is tough. Mooresville I made that post this week, like kind of look at the rankings, and we talked about the guys that are ranked in the Mooresville regional. It's unreal.
Yeah, so they're going to,
and it's not just because you have Center Grove and Brownsburg in there, but there's like some other teams that have really good guys that are just tough.
So yeah, they're going down to Jeffersonville, down to basically Kentucky. Indian Creek got moved from Bloomington South to Jeffersonville. But Indian Creek has some pretty good kids. I think they have some young kids that are pretty good too. So
they have some guys coming up that are going to be really good too.
And then Brown County moved to Bloomington South, and then just Huntington North moved from the Carroll Sectional Regional to Peru. They'd been there previously. They keep getting shifted here or there. They seem like they're like the stepchild because they've been in. I think they were in the New Haven sectional for a little bit. Came back to Carroll. They're usually the ones that get shifted, which is kind of funny. And then just some sectional changes, nothing big.
The way the South is cut for their like regionals and where those guys are going and passing each other is wild.
Yes, it is.
Right. Like when you drive, you're like, oh, these guys go to these guys go to Newcastle, and these guys go to Evansville.
Yeah, it's not an easy thing to draw up. Especially when you have your one semi-state in the furthest corner of the state. Actually, I mean, your three semi-states are all the furthest corner as possible.
Yeah.
And then you have one in the middle, kind of in the middle. So it's kind of hard to, you have to have facilities and stuff. So it's going to be interesting to see how that goes. you know, it is what it is. We can't really do too much to change it or, complain about it. It's not going to do any good. So, and I guess we forgot to say that, State will be in Evansville this year. We get to go to always sunny Evansville. So
I was just scouting it out 2 weeks ago, man.
getting some good places to eat and everything. So
Trying, got the scene. So
I've heard some good things that they're gonna try to kind of make it a little bit more fan friendly and stuff. So hopefully they do. Hopefully if we go down that far south, it's at least decent that you can wear, just wear a light jacket or a sweatshirt around at least.
trying to hear. What do they always say they got there? Like a pulled pork or a pork chop? Like what do they always say like for the at the Ford Arena? I'm trying to get that or nachos. Is it a
Oh
pork
yeah, they're like
nacho?
nacho. I think nachos or something that like are pretty good. So yeah, so that's gonna be interesting. Working on trying to get a. If anyone knows how to get a suite, I would appreciate it.
Yeah.
I'll get you some free IndianaMat gear. So there are hotels and oh, don't get started on hotels. Wrestling Scholar will, or not, it's not Scholar. Who's is it Scholar? The one that was pimping Purdue and
Yeah.
raiding the Evansville hotels.
We're gonna. I think hopefully everything's pretty close, and I know there's some hotels out by the river and stuff. So
Yep. So yeah,
that's where I stayed. It was nice.
I think we'll survive as long as I get tickets and everything. So
Yeah, I think everything south of Lowell, everyone is pretty nice. So when we go to Evansville, everyone was super nice. We were in Kentucky a little bit, so everyone was super nice.
yeah, so yeah, that'll be fun and definitely. Justin says Wolf's Barbecue, and so we'll definitely have a post on places to eat and stuff. And
We're gonna get Hook and Half back in here, right?
oh yeah, oh Hook and Half will probably he might just have a party at his house. I don't know. Maybe I definitely Thursday night might be a IndianaMat get together somewhere. If we can finagle it somewhere. Have a meet and greet and have some food and have some fun because we're in Evansville. We got to do something. So, anyway, I guess the only other thing we can talk about for right now, at least, until we get some other ideas from the always, I kind of I missed our chat. It's always fun to see what people are talking about, and obviously everyone's excited. So, I put out a little bit of a tease on something that. It's getting more and more likely to happen. The area code wars. I know we always have the people arguing about who's the best area and stuff. And so, what do you think about the area code wars?
I think it's. I mean, we've talked about it before, and like a smaller thing, but we've always said like, man, we should do something like that, which I think is really cool because I think obviously I don't know how you guys feel, but I know from like the region we feel like we're the best. Yeah. So if we did area code wars, would we only be able to pull from Indiana guys, or can we get some of our Mount Carmel guys back?
I did it. I did my my pseudo lineups based on their school's area code. So I don't think Mount Carmel has a 219 area code. They might.
They do not.
They might be like.
They might have.
They might be like
the guys going to Mount Carmel definitely have a 219 area code.
Yes. Well, they might be like New Prairie, who puts two different area codes on their website.
Bro, we have a girl. So Dan Luther's daughter, he coached at New Prairie. His daughter plays with us. She's an animal. But man, she said like on their microwave they have Eastern time, and on their stove they have Central time. So they have because they could be on both spots. I said that's terrible.
I'm blaming Kraus. I'm blaming Kraus 100%. That's who's gonna get all of the blame. He probably I think he founded New Prairie, New Carlisle. I think he's the mayor. So yeah,
I think that would be really cool, man. Like if we can get like the people to get into it, I think they would. Like I really do think. Like I know, like our area really enjoys being the 219, and I think that they do a good job. And I know, like, obviously the county guys have always loved being the county. So I think those two are locked in.
Yeah. So
who are we going to get to coach these squads?
Well,
we get Hal Morrison now. Surtis, Hal Morrison. That's going to be our staff.
that would be unfair. So yeah, I don't. Yeah, I'm working on it. I think I got some estimates on some things. You know, like say, obviously you want to, I mean, there's going to be some costs in there. Definitely would like people to have some area code specific thing. I know that'd be really cool to have. The region. Dwayne. You know, shirts and things like that gear. I think people take a lot of pride in their area, and everywhere. Obviously Fort Wayne area and stuff like that. So it should be interesting to see. It's fairly likely at this point. I'll say that much. So,
When would we want to? When would you host this? You think what time of the year?
Right now I'm looking at like March, like second ish, right before ISW. I think it'd be right before ISWA State. I'd like to get it right in where guys are still pretty fresh, and they can get in and out and not worry about. You don't want if you go after ISWA State, you start getting into the spring breaks and stuff. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. I may have a venue. I've talked to someone about a venue, so it would be pretty cool. So
I think it'd be really cool.
Yeah, so
I talked about it before, and just on a smaller scale, and kind of looking that route. But I think that'd be a really cool thing to do.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of better than a lot of people were. You can't have semi-state wars because we have that already, and these are a little bit like semi-states, but then you also get a little bit of a mixture of a little bit different. Like Michiana area, the South Bend, Mishawaka area isn't included in East Chicago, so they're two separate areas.
Yeah. Well, neither is Lafayette. Like we break up, we bring a couple different area codes to the. I don't know what Attica's area code is. Our Terre
Yeah, so it'll be interesting. I'm looking into it. Just need to get about 6 coaches kind of on board to kind of coach and help put together the teams. That way, it should be pretty easy. You just go to state and you kind of have your list of schools, and go from there. Pull those guys. So, could be the 317 one is just, I think that one's brutal because you're included in Hendricks County and Johnson County, so you're getting Center Grove and Brownsburg, and then just add in any Cathedral or Warren Central guys you want to add on top the little icing right there.
Pretty good.
Yeah. When someone like some guys that are top 4 are going to be trying to find a new area code. So I'm we're looking into it. It could be very interesting and pretty fun to do and get some pride and get I don't know. I wouldn't know where you'd want to store the trophy other than maybe behind me or something. You could have like have the kind of like the Stanley Cup every year. Have 317 or the 219 and have some pride in that. So yeah, keep an eye out on that. I'm working on some details, trying to find some logistics and costs and things like that. So we'll see how that works out.
It'd be really cool.
So rankings.
There's been a lot of trash talk over the years for the area, so I think that we can iron this out real quick.
Oh yeah. It goes to the top of the Coliseum. So rankings. I know you've been working on them. What's the ETA on an update? Any big changes?
I mean, a couple here or there, nothing crazy. I think couple some of the teams are trying to get their weights together, and obviously they're that first one in there. But you're getting some of these tighter teams, and they're having some guys move around. So you gotta kind of one day I might say, hey, we're gonna have this guy cut a lot of weight, and then we're like, yeah, maybe we're not gonna have him cut as much weight as we thought. But they're looking good. I think whenever they're ready to go, obviously with the magazine, we did 20. If you didn't buy the magazine, thank you. If you did buy it, thank you. But I mean, we can do a couple ones. Jensen Boyd, freshman #1, had a really good IPO. Obviously, he's been a guy that we've really looked at over the years. We knew he was coming in at Delta with those guys down low with Cody. It's gonna be good.
Yeah.
Dickman, returning champ at 13. 13 is a really good weight.
Oh yeah, yep. Rio coming
120,
back.
Charlie LaRocca. What's
Bollinger
up?
said you got Rio, Bollinger, and Dickman all coming back, all top three guys. So that'll be fun.
McCutcheon's coming up, man. My guy Brandon, he's not lying. McCutcheon's doing a good job.
Yep.
Uh,
Yes, they do. Yeah, they have Ciccone and Dollinger both coming back, and that's two guys with state medals. And anytime you have two state medals come back, that's always a good thing.
and I think they've done a good job of kind of building around those guys too. Did who sold the most covers?
I believe it was LaRocca, if I am not
Charlie
mistaken.
LaRocca, number one at 120.
Yes.
But again, like
they were all pretty close. Crown Point brethren didn't come through, so and no. The Clarks. The bad thing is, if the Clarks would buy one for each of them, we'd be good. But they only probably bought one.
they LaRocca number one at 120. You got Gendris in there, Preston Haynes, a lot of medals. I mean, you got 7 medalists in there.
Yeah.
So far, without we went number 126. Isaiah Schaefer had a really good Indiana, or not IndianaMat, but Super 32.
Yeah, he should.
32, Jake Hockaday. And I think Hockaday, I've heard he's going to be 26. I heard he's going to be 32. I just kind of aired on the other side and went 32.
Yeah, they have a pretty
good a lot of medals there.
Freshman that we have at least slotted in at 26. Braylon Reynolds, right? Yeah, we have him number 3 there. So that would be.
I mean, he's really good.
Yeah, he's real good. So I think they're going to kind of try to get the better lineup there. I think these the new weight class should help them out down low there. With Hockaday,
I know Landon Haynes is out with an injury, so not having. I think they're hoping to get him back by the end, but they're pretty stacked in that area. 38, Tylen Thrine, Brady Ison, Clinton Shepard. We haven't done a show, but man, I thought Shep should have won it. Fargo.
Oh yeah.
That was like one of those ones. Like everyone, that was like one of the days in the summer. The page was blowing up. Like really an unfortunate thing.
Yeah, that was horrible. That was
yeah.
How do you can't screw that up like that, especially in a match like that. So
you're gonna have a guy that was an undefeated state champ as a freshman, a runner-up, and a guy that was top 4 at Fargo, Tony Wood. Congratulations, Tony Wood. Just committed.
Yeah, just committed to West Liberty. Danny Irwin's plucking some Indiana kids, picking some good ones, and just like, hey, let's go to West Virginia. God's country, I guess. But Irwin's from that area. I mean, he was a Norwell guy, so he knows the Jay County guys, and it was his dad sent me the message, and I know Woods wrestles a lot with the Warrior guys, and I kind of was almost penciling him in to go to Indiana Tech, but also understand you kind of want to get away from home. You always want to be under mom and dad's wings, and he'll do well there. West Liberty they have a really good team, and they've been doing. Irwin's doing an awesome job there, and keep getting that program to a pretty cool level. So,
McCutcheon heading to the Tom Cameron. That's a good pickup for those guys. That'd be a good duel. McCutcheon and Maryville.
Yeah, McCutcheon, Maryville, Hobart should be there, I believe.
Yep, that'd be good.
Yeah, that should be good. I wonder who dropped out of that.
What?
So
44, Kyrell Lavelle, Reese Courtney, Parker Reynolds. Good to see Parker getting released. Kind of like a weird injury and not very common. I know they were saying at the end of last year. Then it's good to see him back on the mat. I know his dad posted that. So he's a beast, man. We were there when he wrestled Courtney at Team State. However, Easton Doster. That's a good way too. They got a lot of medalists there.
Yeah, you're putting Dylan Graham. I think you have him listed down there at 144. Was a semifinalist as a freshman, so that's when you're down at what is that? Numbers are 7th. near state semifinals.
Yeah,
That's pretty crazy. So
yeah. 150. They're saying Hunter May is going to go back to 150. Wyatt Frazier. So that'd be two guys that are runner up. Hunter May is back at Floyd Central. Michael Major. I
mhm.
mean, Zara Walker. I mean, I think Zara could be in either there. They spent the whole off season at the Olympic Training Center, which is pretty cool.
Yeah,
Tommy Gibb doesn't have a medal, but had a lot of huge wins this summer. Just a kind of a guy like we were talking about, tough to get in the lineup.
yeah.
I believe he beat Hyvert at IndianaMat, right?
I believe he had a good tournament. He was. Did he make? I think he might have made it to day two, or um, he either made it to day two of Al Smith or not Al Smith, Super 32, or he was real close to it, which is pretty impressive coming in there unseeded and everything. Who did he beat at IPO? At IPO, he beat Hyvert 5-2. Lost to Krija. Ooh, got tech followed by him, and then lost to a Moeller kid. So, yeah, he beat Dylan
The
Graham.
Hump Junior, man.
Yeah, so
Uh,
that's gonna be a pretty good weight class.
so 57. We've kind of moved some guys around. I don't know if Kressel's going to be there. I had Kressel there originally, but Mitchell Betts, Bender, on track. They had Cashman at 57. So how that Warren Central lineup's going to um, shake out is going to be really, really crazy because they have some really good guys all kind of bunched up too.
Yeah, that should
Uh,
be interesting how those guys all sorted out there. Especially that 44 through 75 is going to be brutal for them. 75.
I mean, they're probably going to take one of those guys at 90, right? Like you would think, because you got Kressel, you got Russell, you have
Cashman.
Cashman.
Yeah.
I mean, you're gonna have a lot of guys in that area where
Yeah,
they're really, really good.
Arbery's at you have him at 50 right now. Yeah, they have some hammers there. They're going to be fun to watch, especially in that middle of the lineup thing. And they're going to be a team that, man, they have the horses that they get. If they get those guys to the semifinals or even to the finals, they could make things very interesting at state. And
Oh yeah,
it's going to be they're going to be a team that to watch and just kind of keep your eye on and see if those guys can. Because a lot of those guys, they have 3 or 4 guys that were in the top 4, are all back. They duplicate that. They're guaranteed some points, and they're probably get a couple majors.
and then then you add a guy like Kressel, and then that doesn't even take an account for the guys because they took a lot of guys to Indiana-Mat. I think they had a lot of guys at Super 32 also. They have a lot of guys wrestling a lot of matches.
Yeah, they always have some good guys. Like Paris Green at heavyweight. I think is he finally a senior? I swear he's been in the rankings since 2008. But he's one of those guys that I think he kind of was in and out of the rankings early on. This is a name. He's a heavyweight. That's obviously he's a senior. He's going to be the older guy, and he's probably one that can make the podium. He's had some good wins over his career. Puts it together at the right time, and gets them 10, 12 points. That's huge. And they're going to come out of an area where they don't have to Crown or Brownsburg and Center Grove are going to have to battle with each other and beat each other up for 2 straight weeks. And not that the Newcastle semi-state's easy, but they're going to come out there fairly well unscathed.
Yeah, and I mean, like they're just gonna. They have a lot of really good guys. I think those guys. Like I don't want to say that they're getting slept on a little bit, but it is like, hey, Crown Point and Brownsburg and Center Grove and Mater Dei, and it's like, well, these guys are really good too, And as I look at the stuff and you're seeing all these results, it's like, oh man, Christian Arbery's wrestled everywhere, and you got Kyrell Lavelle who's in the mix, and then you add a Waylon Kressel, and you have Cashman, and you have not Braxton Russell, my fault on that. But you have
Russell,
all those guys. Yeah.
And you got someone like Terry Easley, who had a sneaky good year last year. I don't think he qualified. I just remember seeing some of these names. I'm like, ooh, these guys had pretty good years last year. So yeah, they're going to be a team to. They're back at Al Smith, right? I think I
believe so.
So they're going to be pretty interesting. Yeah, Easley down at 26, Lavelle, Arbery, Cashman, Kressel, Russell, obviously. So yeah, and then you got some. Yeah, it's gonna
It'll
be
be it'll
interesting to
be
see.
interesting to see how those kind of weights. And I think they had some guys at the semi-state also that were. I think they had a 215 at the semi-state.
Mhm.
So they wrestle Pike tomorrow. So we'll get a little bit of a preview.
Yeah,
Kressel, Reinhardt, Duke Myers. Congratulations, state. I see he signed.
yeah. So yeah,
Uh, Benjamin Smith, 175. Costello, Kyle Harden, Detweiler, Weems. So you got a lot of medalists in there too. What do you got? One, two, three, four, five. One, two, three, four, six. So six guys have medals there. And we lost VZ, which
yes, yeah.
sad.
VZ's in He has left the Wayne. He is in Colorado wrestling for Ponderosa, not the steakhouse.
They're not. You know what, man? I heard they don't even have Ponderosas anymore.
They there was one in Auburn. They tore down, and I think they're making something. I don't know what they're making, but yeah,
Ponderosa underrated chicken wings, man. Back in the day, underrated chicken wings.
my best Ponderosa story is I went there with my grandpa one time, and they're like, "Oh, for 99 cents you can get a steak." I'm like, "Can I just add on like a steak?" They're like, "Sure." It was like a hamburger. It was a smashed hamburger. I was like, "You got to be kidding me! Come on!" I was thinking, I get at least a. I didn't expect a filet mignon, but I thought at least a steak. But yeah,
Texas Roadhouse, they just got on a CP, man. Right on off 65, next exit up, killing it.
yeah,
Next show we gotta start a heavyweight, man. Joe's right.
yes,
Uh, 90, Gunnar Henry had a really good Super 32.
yep.
Luke
Earl,
Pinola, Klauser.
Penrose Army Placer, which is just tells you how tough that tournament is. I guess we can talk about that a little bit more, but he also committed to Wyoming. He's going just a few miles. Like you said, you going to Maine. That you might as well go to Wyoming too. Jeez.
I know he's a cowboy, right?
Yeah.
They're the Cowboys.
Yeah. He'll be, I mean, I know they're doing they're dueling. I want to say Campbell. Is it in a barn? So
Wyoming is.
yeah, it's like a well, it's a barn, but it's like a wedding venue barn thing. But I think they're dueling somebody, and I think it might be Campbell. Campbell likes to wrestle in weird places. So yeah, and who's it? Kreisha? Is it Kreisha that committed to Campbellsville? Campbell?
Did he?
Yeah, I believe somebody did. I'll find out here in a second. Go ahead with the rest of the rankings.
215, Will Clark, Cole Chacon, Kate. So like this is kind of where I got a little bit like mixed up. I'm not really sure how they're gonna land at center throw, but I went with McConnell there. Keegan Martin, really good IPO. Courtney's at what did it say? Courtney's at 44.
That's Kreisha. Okay, Courtney is going to Campbell. Kreisha is going to Purdue. That's what I was just looking. LaRocca is going to Air Force. Oh, Courtney and Kreisha.
A lot of D1 guys in that line, man.
Yeah, a lot of studs in there going D1. So
yeah, when your team starts just cranking out multiple D1 guys, it's pretty good.
Yeah, not bad.
Devin Kendricks, Brandon Johnson, Jelante Hinton, heavyweight Paul Clark, Brady Beck, Aramis McNutt, top three at the Chicago semi-state now. Pretty good.
Yeah, and then you're gonna have where did I? Because there's gonna be you got Poppy in there. Our guy Poppy is gonna be him and Beck are gonna be in the same regional. So you have we want to forecast out till semi-state. That could be an ugly death draw for somebody drawn into Clark.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough, man. And that's I mean you're adding a semi-state champion, and Beck's really good. He won IPO also, correct? Right?
Yes, he did. So yeah, you're gonna have those two guys in there. That's gonna be it should be interesting to see how that shakes out. Don't want to project too many ugly ugly Tigger on matches, but I know I saw that one. I was like, ooh man, you want to get those are three guys that should be probably come back with state medals, and one might somebody might draw into Paul Clark and you're knocking out a medal. So
Oh yeah, man. And that's part of it. And Rochester's bringing a lot of good guys to East Chicago, so they had a lot of guys returning.
yeah, they have a lot of good guys coming back, and that's gonna make things very.
That
They're gonna have Mishawaka, Rochester, and
Penn,
Penn
like,
right in that regional, and Plymouth. Plymouth has 4 or 5 really pretty good guys. You got the Smith
yep.
brothers and Poppy, so that's gonna be interesting. So that's gonna be a tough regional. That's not gonna be a regional you want to draw into, and that's I think there's gonna be a little bit more parity, I guess, in out of East Chicago as far as the regionals. It's not gonna be totally dominated by one or two. I think all three of them are gonna be pretty good, and even out of Logansport, you're gonna have some pretty good guys. Ciccone, Dallinger. I think you got Pop.
Oh yeah.
So you have some pretty good guys
Uh,
coming out of all the regionals there.
yeah. And then with LC going over to Hobart, that's gonna be like that regional a lot tougher too. Kind of get more of those guys through.
Yeah, it's gonna
So Lake Central,
because that's gonna have
Maryville.
Lake Central, Maryville, Hobart. Those 3 teams are gonna put a lot of guys through, and those are gonna be
Monsters getting better. They got a lot of guys over there. They got a lot of guys in the program. McNutt's in that over there, Highland.
yeah. So that's gonna be I guess Even I forgot McNutt. Yeah, McNutt or Clark will be regional champions, and then they're gonna draw into
Well, McNutt's he's at the Hobart, and Clark's at Highland goes to.
yeah
So
yeah
they'll be a regional champ. Yeah, so it'll be interesting.
yeah. Got a 2 and 3 chance of running into Clark or McNutt out of Penn. So it'll be interesting. And there's always good heavyweights out of Logansport. There's always some good heavyweights out of there. I don't know who would be the number one guy out of there right now, but that'll be interesting. So, I guess Super 32. I think we talked about it a little bit text wise. We only had one placer, but we had a lot of guys going in that day 2 and stuff, and that just tells almost how tough that tournament is, but also kind of how spoiled we've been with guys like Carroll, Red, Lees, Brayton,
Oh yeah,
and all all those guys that are like number one, Paris, all those guys that are like number 1 or number 2 in their weight classes, and we don't have those right now. But I think we have a really good just core group of guys that are pretty top to bottom. I think our guys are all pretty good. They're just not top 5, top 10 in the country, which is pretty hard to
yeah.
crack that area.
A couple of questions. Crown Point's going to Mount Carmel this year, so it's Mount Carmel's year to host, and then the teams taking the LC spot is North Newton, right? At the Crown Point sectional.
Yes, North and South Newton are going to Crown Point. I guess that's kind of the best. Kind of how you put it is probably about the best way to. That's the trade off. Because
Yeah.
North Judson's leaving Crown Point, and they're going to Penn, and so North and South Newton are going into Crown Point. So I guess that's the trade off.
So like my buddy, back to Super 32. My buddy, like, he watches a ton of college stuff. He's like, man, Indiana's struggling. I was like, man, you got like world medalists and world champs in the tournament. Like you have guys that are like that just wrestled at, what was it, the Clarion Open, like Bo Bassett, and those guys all wrestled there. And
Yeah,
they're also Super 32. They're beating college guys, beating ranked college guys. So it's an incredibly tough tournament. I don't. We're not like that 1%, like you said. Like we don't have. Like I don't know anyone who's like the nationally ranked guys right now for Indiana.
Gunner's in there. Hockaday's in there. I'd have to look. It's not like a whole.
Dickman was in there at some point, right?
Dickman's in it, gets in and out of there. He's like right on that bubble. I'm gonna pull these up here in a second. Let's see. New ranking.
I did think like what Joe does, the national stuff. The group of freshmen we have, I think, are really tough. I think we have a good group of freshmen coming in right now, and some of our bigger guys obviously play football, and those guys are tough. I think Paul and Will are right there. I'm sure. Like Will is he not in the national rankings or?
You got Hockaday. I think one of them is. I think Will is. Paul is
And
not.
then and then losing like VZ, obviously, like VZ's a guy that's really good, so
Lose,
that hurts. But
yeah. Will is number 18. VZ's an Indiana guy, but we do lose him in our, for state. We got VZ is 11th at 190. Henry's 17th. So that's what we have there. I don't know if I'm guessing we probably maybe. I think that's about it. So yeah, we don't have a lot of ranked guys, even though there's. I mean, it's hard to get ranked. You got to really
yeah,
do well, and at tournaments like the Super 32, you got to have breakout performances there, where we are getting. We have the ability now to go to Ironman, which I'm glad to see Center Grove is there. I don't know if we mentioned that. They're there this year. So that should be fun. Good couple days. Yeah, I don't see anybody else. So it's 13's not up, or there's an issue with getting
we,
the
we didn't
113.
we didn't talk about some of the other stuff too. And I mean, I know it's running a little bit late. The middle school guys at the Super 32 did really well.
Yeah.
Case Bell is really good. I know MJ Staples is really good, and those two guys won it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, they're coming up. Where's is Bella and Avon or Brownsburg kid, right?
He's in that area. I know he's a Contenders kid, so I'm not
Okay.
I'm not sure. I think they're kind of it's like loosely associated, right? Like you
Yeah.
can kind of pick whatever. No,
Yeah.
I don't. I think he's listed as Avon, but I'm not sure. And then I think Staples either Crown Point. I know like the old youth rankings had him as New Prairie. I keep hearing he's gonna be a Crown Point. He's a Crown Point kid. So, um,
So yeah.
but Brownsburg's going to Ironman. Center Grove and Crown Point are all going to Ironman, right?
Yep. And then
And then did we ever talk about Carnahan and how much better that got? Also, I know it was on the page.
no, we have not. And I was gonna put together. I was gonna look and see what how the team, since the national rankings came out this week. I was gonna see what the rankings of those teams were. I don't even have it easily accessible other than probably that text from Bill.
Yeah,
You have it?
or unnamed source. I think that's what we have to say. The unnamed source of who's there.
Okay.
But man, Bishop McCord's there this year, right?
Yeah. They're gonna have a few good guys there.
Yeah,
They win
they're pretty
college
solid.
opens.
Yeah, I think that was like one of those things. Mount Carmel being there now is really cool. But yeah, you get a team like Bishop McCord. It's like, yeah, like we're pretty good, but now we're adding guys that are beating All Americans.
Yeah. Let's see the Carnahan. Okay, here we go. This is what posted in July. Crown Point, Brownsburg, Homewood, Illinois, Arrowhead, Wisconsin. I think they have some pretty good big guys, right?
Yeah, which is where like Askren
Yeah,
schools, right?
yeah. Lowell, Michigan. Lowell, Michigan just revamped their they followed in Indiana's footsteps, and they allow people, they can travel to contiguous states or something like that.
I think
Bishop,
that's why they were able to get Bishop McCord in, right?
yeah. Bishop Watterson, is that Ohio? I don't even know where that is. Yeah, Columbus, Ohio. I don't know who they have. Bishop McCourt. I do know who they are. Cleveland, Tennessee. They're pretty good. Tennessee school. Lakeshore, Michigan. Dundee, Michigan. Marmium, Illinois. Springsboro, Ohio. Mount Carmel, St. Paris Graham. Lakeshore, Michigan, and then Joliet Catholic. So that's gonna be a pretty nice little day of wrestling. I know I'm already
Yeah.
kind of planning on heading over there. Probably won't be there till a little bit later, but yeah, that's gonna be a good day of wrestling.
Yeah, that's gonna be pretty tough. I think it's gotten better every year. And then like as like through the summer, and they're kind of talking to guys at tournaments, and they're like, I think when Bill sent this study, he's like, yeah, I think we're gonna try to get Bishop McCourt, and I was like, wow, like that's gonna be pretty good.
Yeah, I know.
That's December. Which one is that? December what?
December
Because it's like
6th.
it's after Iron Man.
Yeah, it's the week after Iron Man. It's the 16th. It's a 1 day tournament, so it'll be 1 day of absolute brutal wrestling. After you just had 2 days of brutal wrestling, the
Yeah,
Crown Point guys are gonna be like, "Oh, I can't wait for the Al Smith. That's gonna be an easy weekend."
that was like what we said. I think we said that last year. Like Christian Washington had a losing record, and they like drill him out. I was like, he's pretty good.
Yeah,
Like, I mean, like it's hard to see him because he doesn't have anything like on his like resume at that point. And I don't remember who he grabbed, but I was like, yeah, he's under 500, but like he wrestled at the Iron Man, he's wrestled at
well,
the Carnahan, and then now, you know,
yeah. So,
it's
Sonny
pretty.
was like that, wasn't he? Was like 4-8 or something. I don't know. It was just like, okay, this guy's gonna come
Oh
in
yeah,
here with a 500 or losing record, and he ends up placed fourth or fifth, something like that. Like, yeah, he's not too bad. You might not want to.
yeah.
Hey,
Well, I mean, you're wrestling, and the Browns were the same way. Like some of those guys, like I think Mason Day didn't have like the greatest record, but they're going out and finding some of the best competition. You know, it's incredibly tough.
yeah, yeah, that's crazy that those are the only two teams in that tournament. Indiana teams, most there's no other Indiana tournament that I think it might be 16 teams they have. Only two of them are Indiana teams in Indiana. So
I know they invited some top tier Indiana guys, and I think they got told thanks, but no thanks.
yeah,
But and that's tough. I mean, it was something that we talked about last year with Al Smith. Like, you would think, you get that invite. That's a pretty prestigious tournament. You don't want to get in there. I mean, just to see, like, especially if you have a couple of really good guys to kind of see where they're at in the national side.
yeah.
You know,
Oh,
and I'm sure there'll be colleges there.
yeah. That's huge for national rankings. It's huge for exposure for all of the kids there. Obviously, we're very biased towards our Indiana guys, but that's huge exposure to wrestle that level of competition. And that event's going to get national exposure. I know Willie's already talking about it. I was talking to him with it the other day. So I know it's on his radar. I know Josh Lowe's, it's on his radar. So when it's on those people's radar, going out there and a Tommy Gibbs goes out there and places third and gives whoever the heck Bishop McCourt brings out there, maybe makes it a 3-point match or something. He's going to get some recognition. He's going to get, in last year, like just when we talked about Reinhardt at the Ironman, he made the semifinals, and I was texting you. I was like, dude, that dude just made some money. He just got. I mean, I know he was getting D1 call. I don't think he. Technically, I'm not sure if he can get calls at that time. Whatever it was, but I know he was getting some looks real quick.
Oh, there was definitely
who's this guy? Who's this guy?
Right, like his IndianaMat page profile numbers were like spiking. It was like, oh, it went from, let's say, like 200 views. It was like 1,000 views. Like, oh, like, yeah, people want to know, like, what's this guy doing?
Yeah.
Um,
They're gonna find. They want to know what year he is. They want to know. I mean, yeah. So yeah, that's that's one of those things that people don't. It's hard to get that exposure. Previously, now those kids can go there, and I hope to see, some of the teams with some of that top end talent are starting to look at some of those other events and saying, hey, we don't have to take our full team. Just like Brownsburg took half a team last year, we don't have to take our full team, but we're going to take 3 or 4, 5 studs. Get them that exposure. That's huge, and that's good for those kids, but it's also great for the state more than anything. It gives, I think Crown Point Brownsburg wrestled their butts off there, and I was like, okay, Indiana showed that they can wrestle here.
oh yeah, and just being like the first teams to go there from Indiana, you have to like kind of go out and represent, because it's not like, I don't know how those guys are viewing us overall, but they know that the top end guys are really good,
Yeah.
And you had Reinhardt do well, and the Clarks do well. So it shows, like, even like before those guys were, the big names nationally, that those guys are able to represent.
Yeah. I never in my wildest dreams kind of thought about seeing a Crown Point and Blair match or Brownsburg. Brownsburg, and there's some like Oregon teams there, and so I'm like, I'm like, is who's that team that we're Crown Point kids? Like, oh, that's Stillwater, that's Oklahoma. Oh, that's like, man, I never kind of envisioned that, which is cool to see those guys are wrestling those programs, and that they took it to them, and it was great for the state and for those teams and kids.
And they're getting more people there. So Center Grove, it's good to see that they're there.
Yeah,
obviously Center Grove does a good job, and they have a stacked squad.
Yeah. So yeah, hopefully, I guess hopefully Crown Point and Center Grove get their football guys, but guys gotta hopefully they get them in shape quick. They'll have about 2 weeks when they make the state finals. Let's see how many they'll have.
Big week. The first showdown between Center Grove and Crown Point, maybe at the state championship in football.
Yeah. They play. Yeah, that'd be interesting. That'd be very interesting. So they'll have 2 weeks to get them out of football shape into wrestling shape. So that's gonna be interesting to see how that happens. 2 weeks, those guys are in good shape. But it's gonna be interesting to see how they do. That'd be fun to see them go at it. Football and wrestling, and Center Grove's really good at football. They kicked Carroll's butt last year. It's like, whoa, they're in different levels there. So should be interesting.
One of our family friends plays softball there, and I was like, oh, what are all those numbers? Like, oh, those are our state championships and our Mrs. Softballs. I said, oh, so you guys are really good.
Nice. So, well, we plan on going pretty much every Monday, I think.
Yep.
Good days for both of us. So, before we exit, is there anything else we want to talk about or touch on?
I know I touched on it a little bit, but it was really cool to go out to the girls' meet at Highland. There was a ton of girls there. I was there. I didn't get there when it started. I don't normally show up when it starts. I don't need to be there that early. But stayed for most of the day. Those guys were working hard. A lot of good matches. A lot of coaches out there. Really excited. So cool to see the sport on the girls' side really growing, and just seeing the excitement in the gym was really cool.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be it's growing, and pretty good possibility that it will be officially sanctioned next year, which is cool for the girls. I believe they added, I guess they're calling it a regional. There's going to be a regional and a semi-state now this year, and that start in that's going to be the first one. I guess if you give me my calendar, will be December 30th. That Saturday. I believe that's the regional, and then semi-states are the 6th, and the state will be actually the 5th and the 12th. It's in that range, so it's going to be interesting to see, especially with some holiday tournaments, and it's growing. It's getting kind of crazy. I know Razzo is his head's spinning with rankings and stuff, and he's doing a great job with it. And my biggest thing is trying to make sure we don't have duplicate people in the database.
Well, and I think that was cool too, kind of seeing some of the girls that Razzo had ranked and seeing how they compete, and they're good, man. There's a lot of talented girls out there.
Yeah. So
the one thing we missed, man, our guy Jesse Mendez, runner up in the Worlds.
Oh yes. How did we forget that? Yeah, Mendez runner up at Worlds at 65, which he went up a weight class. A little smaller at that weight, and I think he's registered for the Bill Farrell. Not Will.
They said that.
Not Will.
Not the Wild Bill, huh?
So I don't know exactly. I know that's coming up.
I remember they asked, like, after they just wrestled, who did he just pin? Who they just wrestle? Like, he's buzzsawing people right now. He's killing people.
Yeah.
He looks good up a weight.
Yeah, that's this weekend, 17th and 19th.
And then they said, like, he's wrestling Bill Farrell, and then the next week he's wrestling like the Las Vegas, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that should be pretty. That's gonna be a lot of fun. So yeah.
Jesse likes to wrestle, man. He looks good.
Yeah, that Virginia Tech Ohio State duel was pretty cool, fun to watch.
They wrestled someone right after Virginia Tech too, right?
Yeah, they
wrestled someone the next day.
Uh,
Edinburgh, because I was gonna text Bill.
yeah,
I think they killed them. Everything was bonus points.
yeah. I, if I didn't have to do some things, I was like, I definitely want to go to Ohio State match this year. Did not get to one last year, and I'm like, man, I was like, hey Rocco, let's go to Ohio State, and then my wife said no. So
Yeah.
I think I've pinpointed a couple ones that I want to I might have an opportunity to go to this year. So I definitely want to go to at least one. I wish Hector would just take the scenic route and just come to Fort Wayne and pick me up, but I guess I'm gonna have to drive
I
myself.
rode Hector State one year. That's not what you want. Unless you're ready for a blur weekend, man. My guy Hector likes to party.
Okay, that's good to
Anyone
know.
that's
I will make a mental note on that one.
in the comments, anyone that's been around my guy Hector knows that he likes to party.
I will make sure I note that. Yeah, so now I'm excited to see that. Definitely want to get down to watch Jesse, and I know Ohio State has a real good team, and yeah, they had some new guys in the lineup, and they're pretty tough, and yeah, it's they're too close to not to go, and it's like, oh man, I just need to commit to it and just go. So, and
I thought that was always like one of the cool things that Hector said. Like when they would do big tournaments where they knew there were going to be interviews if you won, they would practice interviews on the way there. Like obviously Grappler they do interviews, IPO they do interviews, and like I think he's very like composed. Like as someone that's interviewed him after matches, like he's very composed in what he says, and I think he's done a really good job. Even like watching him on some of the college stuff, it was like, man, at a very young age, like he was like very aware of like, hey, I'm going to be talking in front of a camera, and like doesn't hesitate, like is very well spoken. So I think that's pretty good.
yeah, definitely. You can tell the guys that have experience doing that, and especially like doing some of the IPO interviews, and you're talking to guys, and some of them open up pretty quickly. Some are, you're taking a pry bar to try to, how was your day? What do you think? It was good.
Yep, good. Awesome.
Yeah. Do you wrestle any tough competition? Yeah, a couple guys. I pinned a couple.
Yeah.
Like it's hard to peel it out of some of them, and that's not easy to have a camera in your face, but that's a definitely something that is more and more prevalent, and you want to make sure you say the right things, and you don't sound dumb, or you don't sound cocky, or and it's one of those things that you want to sound confident, but you don't want to sound like a jerk or anything. And so I know Jesse always says the right things, and
Yeah.
and I don't even think it's not even that's who he is. Number one, it's easy to do when it's not fake. It's who he is. But it's also, you can also sound very conceited and stuff. And
Well, I think we talked about with Stefan and some of his interviews and stuff too. He was always like very well spoken when you would do interviews with them or talk to him, and like very like hey, like it was always very well thought out, and like he does a good job. Like you walk away like, oh man, he's very aware of what he's doing.
yeah, yes, the best is the one at NCA's after DeSanto tried to break his arm. It's like, I don't think that guy really knows how to lose. And I think that was one of the first times that he kind of said something off the cuff that you wouldn't expect out of him, but it was like, it needed to be said.
Yeah, it was like, and it was just like, oh yeah, like that was right. Yeah, he doesn't take a lot of A-whoopings a lot, right?
Yeah, yes,
yes,
that's exactly what he said. Yeah, yes, he's not sure how to take one of those. Yeah, and it was one of those things that like I've been around Stefan enough, and he's very well spoken, like you said, and it's like, whoa, that kind of came out of left field. But you knew that you knew he's a kid. He has that in him to kind of talk like that. But it's like, whoop, and then he's back to like in the normal, happy, and so. Anyway, well, I think we're gonna get out of here. We get a good 2 hours almost, hour and a half.
Yep, not bad.
Yeah, not hour and a half for our first time, and only about
Before
a half hour pre-show.
Yeah, before rankings update or anything. So
yeah,
let's go.
So yeah, we'll be back next Monday. Talk more wrestling. Probably have a rankings update out there probably by then. And then I guess we're gonna get going. Tune in to WZBD on Thursday. You can hear my lovely voice, not how to see my face. So
yeah. So. Check out. I know they're on. We just got a poster. Check out Dane's shows. I was on last night. Those guys always great. I love doing that show.
Yep.
We'll have some good results this weekend too, I'm sure.
Yep.
Capital City, John Hurley.
Yeah,
So
so it should be some good matches, and season's here, so good luck, everyone.